First story of the day I want to talk about real quick is the Yellow Vests protest again. I've talked about it a bunch. If you're new here, this is on YouTube. Yellow Vest protest is uniting the left and the right. Nobody likes the bank puppet, Obama, Hillary puppet, whatever you want to call him. Rihanna told you to vote for him. Nobody likes him though over there. He said he was going to create an army against the United States. He's like, we need an army to fight the United States. It's like, bro, your whole police force is now deployed at your own people. You should focus on yourself. America first, France first. He didn't follow that. He tried to take over the world. And what happened was both sides of the political debate turned against him. You have the Yellow Vest protests. They've gotten really bad. I mean, there's already been several people who've been killed at the protests. Today I shared an article of some guy who got shot in the head, albeit it was not with a gun. It was with a flashball, whatever that is. But it looked like it hurt. His whole head was cracked open and he possibly had brain damage. The guy was a fireman, a father of three, and got shot in the head by the police. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he was looting a store. That's what the article said. Maybe he was a thug or doing something bad. I don't know. I saw in the same article they had like a hammer and sickle flag. So you have to understand these people in France. Imagine if you're in France protesting high taxes and like unlivable life, and you're waving a hammer and sickle flag. It's like the far left. No offense, there's any far left people watching, but they're perpetually confused because the far left hates the government. They think the government's corrupt, but then their whole ideology is to give more money, power, and control to the federal government. So it's like they're mad, but they don't even know why they're mad. Same thing here. No offense, it's just true. Anyway, I don't know what this guy was doing or not. I don't know how much crime is being done. I understand there are factions of the Yellow Vests who are lighting stuff on fire and doing crimes. Not to blame, once again, but I'm guessing it is probably like the far left who's doing that. I'm not saying I know for sure, but it doesn't seem like something that the right would do. And this protest brings both of them together. I don't know for sure. I'm not trying to make that like a statement that I'm sure about. But why I want to talk about it today, I've already talked about it a bunch. They're trying to divest from the banks. They're trying to stick it to Macron. It's a really interesting protest, unlike anything we've seen in the modern era in Europe. But I wanted to talk about it because they don't have what we have in America, which is the Second Amendment. We have a lot of guns in America, and we have the right to bear arms. And I want to explain even to my progressive and far left people who watch me and haven't got mad yet. First of all, if you are far left and you watch me, or you're like far liberal, or you're just normal liberal, thank you for being here. That shows a lot of intellectual integrity and courage to listen to me speak against what you think is right. So I appreciate you guys the most. But it's not a surprise. You have to understand, everybody knows the government's corrupt. The left wing knows the government's corrupt. The right wing knows the government's corrupt. The libertarians know the government's corrupt. The socialists know the government's corrupt. Everybody knows the government's corrupt. The only difference is the new right, like the new modern right wing, the Trump evolution, outside of like the neocons. We're anti-war, we're anti-establishment, we're anti-government, we are like anti all that stuff. The only difference is we want to give less money, power, and control to the federal government. It makes total sense to me. It's why I don't understand leftists anymore. It's like, yes, the government's corrupt. Let's not feed the beast. Let's, cut them off a little bit. I don't think my tax money should go to them. And I know that they're not going to do the right thing. I mean, at this point, just crowdfund it. Do GoFundMe. You could raise $20 million. You might as well do it yourself. The government, I'm sorry, they're not going to do it. They're not paying the teachers that well. They're not fixing the roads. Like, they're not really doing anything. So stop falling for these traps. We'll take the money and we'll control the health industry. Oh, yeah, that sounds really great. It's really working well in the UK and France. No, it's really not working well anywhere, because anywhere leftism goes is the ideology of big government. And when you have big government, all of a sudden speech goes away. And then now Europe and certain parts of, most of the Middle East, many parts of Europe, you don't have unfettered free speech. It's not a coincidence. Big government, they take your money, you have less money, you have less controls, there's so many regulations, you can't do anything, you can't speak. And then they come for the Second Amendment, because any competent society of people who aren't total cowards and, weaklings, they want to protect themselves. That's why our founding fathers gave us the Second Amendment. It wasn't for duck hunting. It was to protect ourselves against tyrannical government or protect ourselves from criminals. It's the reason that Bolsonaro in Brazil is giving his people guns now. It's not because he's a dictator like the left-wing media says. Dictators don't give their people guns. Dictators take away guns, so people don't have guns, so then they can get away with anything, their agenda of big control. So I'm just trying to say with the yellow vest thing, people are getting shot in the head. Yes, it's not with the gun. I'm not trying to over-exaggerate it, but what do you think happens every time you give your money and power to the federal government? They take speech away, they take guns away. This isn't a coincidence. So any progressive or liberal that says, no, we just want to take semi-autos away. We just want to do this and that. It's so obvious that all these things go hand in hand. Some people are power-hungry freaks, but most people on the left, progressive and liberal, they're kind-hearted people. They have good souls. They mean to do well. They're like, yeah, for sure, we'll just give the money to the government and they'll help the poor people. You should know by now that that's not going to happen. I don't understand how you don't. And they lie on Twitter. I'm just being honest. They're like, oh, everyone's going to get 0% taxes and the rich are going to pay 70% taxes. First of all, everybody knows that under progressivism or liberalism, the middle class does not get 0% taxes. That's an obvious lie. I don't know why she who must not be named keeps lying about that and people buy into it. But also, you can't force the rich to pay 70% taxes. Well, I'm going to take you to California real quick. We have, the highest taxes in the U.S., and it's the most business taxes in the U.S. We have the most businesses leaving the country to China. We have more businesses leaving to other states. There's a reason these things go hand in hand. It's because nobody wants to pay these taxes. If I make $1 million and you say you're going to take 700,000 of them, guess what? I'm moving out of the state. And if it becomes a whole country thing, I might move out of the country, or I'll protest or something. But I'm not giving 70% of my money to the federal government ever. It's never happening. I'm sorry. I will literally move to New Zealand. I'll move to Thailand. I'll move to Iraq before I pay 70% of my taxes to the U.S. government. I'm just being honest. So you can't, the whole ideology of high taxes doesn't work. And there's a reason, no matter how nice you think Bernie Sanders is, or maybe Tulsi Gabbard will be nice, and you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and all these people, no matter how good what they say is, there's a reason that whenever from France to the neoliberal bank puppet to the woke Bernie Sanders anti-establishment, there's a reason they take high taxes. There's a reason they give all of the control of the health industry and other industries directly to the federal government. There's a reason that they give you individual mandates and don't give you the freedom to opt out of stuff, because big government means speech control, gun control, life control, total control. It's never worked ever. It's never going to work ever. It's not working in Europe, Bernie Sanders. It's not working in Europe, progressive analysts on YouTube. It's not working. You have Macron, who can't even handle his own country, Merkel, who can't even handle her own country, trying to step down. Meanwhile, they're trying to take over the whole European Union or whatever and say, oh no, we're your leader now. We'll tell you how many refugees to take. No, you can't oppose us. Everywhere leftism goes, gun control goes, high taxes go, speech control goes. Who's censoring us here? Who's incapable of, having an intelligent discussion? And I'm going to get into my second segment. It's not just liberals. It's mostly liberals and progressives, but I'm going to call out a conservative today too, because I just don't like hypocrisy and lying. It's not about Republicans. It's not about Mitt Romney or John McCain. We found out this year how phony they were. I don't care if they're an elephant or a donkey. It's about what's true. And the yellow vest should be a huge wake-up call to Americans not to give up your First or Second Amendment, because what happens when you give up your Second Amendment, police can just blow your brains out in the middle of the street and say, oh, whoops, we didn't mean to hit you with that, but there's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, the police are just pathetic in Europe. They got batons. They're getting beat up by migrants. It's pathetic. Second Amendment's there for a reason, and there's been nothing that's gone on in the last 20 years to make you think otherwise. Like, Hitler was so long ago and Stalin was so long ago. No, they weren't. They were within 100 years, and every single leftist leader from the UK to here follows the same agenda of like speech control, gun control, high taxes, government control. It's a no-go for me, Alex. I'll take a never be progressive and liberal again for 5,000. Yellow vests, smarten up. And to the progressive, socialist, communist yellow vests, you guys are perpetually confused because you hate big government. You think the government's corrupt, but you think the solution to a big, bloated, overreaching government is to give them more power and control of all the industries, and somehow they're going to redistribute it to the poor and middle class. I mean, come on already. You're the type of person that would literally like walk into a den of thieves and get robbed and be like, oh, I had no idea I was going to get robbed. Well, you walked into a jail cell wearing a Gucci bag, and yeah, you got it stolen from, because it doesn't make sense. It's never going to make sense. There's a reason it's a 0% success rate. It's literally the goofiest ideology ever. I'm done with that.